Okay, let's get the Murray ATC 1000 vacuum reclaimer back together so I can vacuum out this air conditioning system on the white 2105. Clogged line because of a mud dauber clogging up a port. Got dirt inside this port here and it got in this elbow and I could not get it out of there, so I had to cut it, put mechanics wire in there, got a compression fitting, and then I can get it back in that reclaimer and get it. I got this working and I got the system vacuumed down. Vacuum from the low side. There's an inlet port right here into this reclaimer. And the way you want to vacuum a system down is, I've got this reclamation tank. Use, depending on what kind of refrigerant you have, use a tank dedicated to that. So this is an old R12 system. I did run out of R12 refrigerant years ago. That's hard to get. And I got an R12 replacement called DuraCool, which I got up at Worthington Ag Parts in St. John's, Michigan. And then I've got my buddy's old reclaimer. I've had this for years. So this whole system's set up for R12. So are these gauges. They're just for R12. You don't want to use them with any other refrigerant. Otherwise, you can run the risk of cross-contamination. You do want to vacuum out slowly. So that's what's nice about this reclaimer is the compressor will turn on when pressure gets built up in there, suck some out. And then what I do is I close these gauges and let the pressure climb back up to see what is left in my system. Ideally, you want about 1 to 2 pounds left in the system so that when you crack the lines, you don't get a big influx of air rushing in. And that's what's really nice about this system. And then, obviously you want to try to vacuum the system down to low pressure rather than just cracking the lines open and not using a reclaimer, because some of your oil that you use for your compressor could rush out. And doing it this way, I won't have to add any oil when I refill the system. I'm pulling the engine out of this tractor, so that's why I need to take this compressor off to get it off the mounting brackets on the block and get it off this tractor. And then, so I don't want to have to guess how much oil I lost and what indeterminate amount. If you're unsure about how much oil you have in the system, then you may have to flush the whole system, which is a lot of work. That would mean going back up into that cab, getting the evaporator out of there, pulling that out, reflushing it. And if you get Mickey Mouse about your tractor AC system, you can really just ruin it. And you see typically a lot of old tractors, the air conditioning systems don't work, or you pay $1,000 to have a tech come out from a tractor dealership. They monkey with it for a few hours, and then a week later the thing's blowing hot air. That's because attention to detail isn't often followed on air conditioning systems. Different refrigerants mixed with each other, different types of oils, just going to the auto parts, grabbing a can of refrigerant and throwing in there, things like that. So this kind of takes the guesswork out of it. I know that I got my refrigerant out of there. I'm going to be real careful. I'm going to tape up those lines, close them off once I undo the compressor. You store the compressor down on its pulley to keep all the oil in there. Otherwise, you can get oil to leak out of there. So, and what I did is when I had this running, I would hear the compressor kick on, it would turn off, it would draw down to, a vacuum. And then I'd turn this off and see if some residual pressure up here in the system was still there, and it would climb up a little bit, and then I'd slowly open this low pressure side. So I was doing everything from the low pressure side, even though I've got both lines hooked up. But I vacuumed this machine, this Murray ATC 1000. It was just sucking in from the low side. I was trying to purge this line. This is a reclamation tank, so we got a high and a low, but nothing was purging through the high side. All right, well, that's a little update on tractor air conditioning system. I'll probably go over how to recharge this thing a couple months down the road when I'm ready to put this tractor back together.